The night I kissed Perry, my husband was still breathing through a machine. I told myself it was a moment of weakness, that grief made my hands shake and my mouth forget its vows. But the truth is, that night changed everything. I did not plan to fall into the arms of Todd's best friend. I did not plan for comfort to taste like betrayal. But when life hangs in the balance, and you feel like you are drowning in loneliness, your heart does not always wait for permission. Perry held me. I let him. And the guilt? It came the second our lips touched. But the real twist? Todd was not gone forever. And Perry, well, he had his own reasons for stepping in. You think you know what loyalty looks like until it looks you in the eye and kisses you like a secret. Before I dive deeper into this story, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to this channel. You are truly the reason this platform keeps growing. And to all our new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, I honestly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the fuel that keeps this channel running and the energy behind every story we share. Also, please do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. Now back to the story. My name is Sally. I am 53 years old, and I live in a small town just outside Portland, Oregon. I have been married to Todd for nearly 30 years. Todd is 56. He is steady, dependable, and the kind of man who believes love means never needing to say much at all. We were not unhappy, but over the years, silence replaced passion. We lived like polite roommates who had once loved each other deeply, but forgot how to say it aloud. Then came the accident. Todd was driving home from a job site late one rainy evening. He never made it to the front door. I still remember the sound of the phone ringing. The voice that told me he had crashed, hit his head, and was now in a medically induced coma. That first night in the hospital felt endless. Machines beeped. Nurses whispered. I sat beside his bed and stared at his still face, willing him to move, to wake up. And then came Perry. Perry is 54, Todd's best friend since college. He is taller than Todd, louder, always the life of any room. He brought me coffee, blankets, and gentle strength I did not even know I needed. At first, I was just grateful. But grief plays tricks on your mind. Perry started showing up daily. He brought groceries, helped me pay bills, sat with me during long hours at the hospital. I began to expect his knock on the door. I started to lean on his words, his presence, his smile. One evening, I broke down crying on my kitchen floor. Perry walked in and found me like that. He knelt beside me and pulled me close. I sobbed into his chest, feeling more seen than I had in years. Then, without warning, he kissed me. His lips were warm, familiar, forbidden. I pulled away, breathless. He apologized. I did not speak. I could not. The worst part? I did not stop him. After that kiss, nothing was the same. I stayed up that night, staring at the ceiling in the dark, Todd's empty side of the bed still untouched, cold. I kept replaying it. The way Perry looked at me with guilt in his eyes. And something else. Need. I wanted to believe it was just a fleeting moment, born from stress and grief. But I also knew the truth. Something had shifted in me. I was tired of being invisible. Tired of being strong. Tired of waiting for a man in a coma to come back and love me like I was still 25. The next morning, Perry acted like nothing had happened. He brought me coffee again, joked about the weather, and sat beside me at Todd's bedside like we were just friends. But the air between us was thick. My skin could feel the silence. Days turned into weeks. Todd remained unconscious. Perry kept coming. One night, I asked him why he was doing so much. He looked at me and said, "Because I care. And because he would want someone to take care of you." That line both comforted and crushed me. We never spoke of the kiss again, but the tension kept growing. Every touch lingered longer. Every hug felt tighter. Every goodbye held hesitation. Then one afternoon, Todd's sister came to visit. She was sharp-eyed and suspicious. She watched the way Perry opened the door for me, the way he handed me tea before I even asked, the way he glanced at me like we were sharing a secret. Later that evening, she pulled me aside. "Sally," she said, "is there something going on between you and Perry?" My heart dropped. My face burned. I laughed it off, told her I was just overwhelmed and Perry had been a blessing. She nodded slowly, but did not believe me. I could feel it. That night, I told Perry we needed distance. He agreed. But 3 nights later, I called him anyway. I was sitting by Todd's bed, tears rolling down my face. "Come," I whispered. And he did. We sat in the hospital parking lot, inside his truck. I talked. He listened. I cried. He held my hand. It was not physical, but it was more intimate than anything I had felt in years. I told myself I was just coping, that I was still a good woman in a bad situation. But denial does not last forever. Because one morning, as I walked into Todd's hospital room with fresh flowers in hand, I saw it, his eyes. They were open. He was awake, alive, and looking straight at me. The weight of everything I had done crushed me in that instant. But the nightmare was just beginning. Todd's eyes were open, but they were not the same. They looked confused, distant, like he was caught between 2 worlds. The nurse rushed in behind me, followed by a doctor. They started talking in clipped voices, checking his vitals, flashing lights in his eyes. I stood frozen, clutching the bouquet like a shield. He blinked, then stared right at me. "Sally?" His voice was dry and weak, but it shattered me. "Yes," I whispered, stepping forward, forcing a smile. "I am here, Todd." He nodded slowly, and tears slipped down his cheeks. He was alive. He was back. And suddenly, all the lines I had crossed, the guilt, the lies, the quiet betrayal, they all came rushing toward me like a wave I could not stop. The next few days were a blur of specialists, therapists, and medical updates. Todd had survived the coma, but he would need months of physical therapy. He struggled to move, to speak clearly. He had to relearn how to walk. I was by his side, every hour, every day. And Perry? He disappeared. No calls, no visits, not even a text. At first, I was angry. Then I realized he was ashamed. Or maybe he just could not face what we had done. I kept up the act, played the devoted wife, cooked, cleaned, smiled when the nurses were watching. But inside, I was unraveling. One night, a month after Todd's awakening, he asked me something. "Why do you look sad around me?" I froze. "What do you mean?" I asked. "You smile, but your eyes, they are heavy, like you are carrying something." I sat on the edge of the bed. I stared at the wall. My hands trembled. And then I told him everything. The kiss, the emotional closeness, the nights with Perry, the blurred lines, the guilt that kept me awake long after Todd had returned to life. He did not shout. He did not cry. He just stared, silent. And then he said the words that broke me completely. "I trusted both of you. I would have done the same for him if the roles were reversed." I looked at him, speechless. He closed his eyes, not from pain, but from exhaustion, from betrayal. It took months before he spoke of it again. By then, Perry had moved out of Oregon. He never said goodbye, never looked back. I heard he remarried in Idaho. Todd and we stayed married, but something between us never came back. We eat dinner in silence, most nights. We sit beside each other like shadows of who we used to be. He forgave me, but I do not think he ever really forgot. And I do not think I did either, because when I close my eyes at night, I still see his face. The moment he woke up, The look in his eyes when he realized the world had moved on without him. And I had helped to do just that. Sometimes betrayal is not loud. It does not always come wrapped in passion or scandal. Sometimes it walks in quietly, disguised as comfort, disguised as need. I broke my vows, not out of desire, but out of weakness. And the consequences were not flames and fury. They were silence, distance, and a marriage that would never be the same again. If this story moved you in any way, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Would you have told the truth if you were in my shoes? Have you ever crossed a line while trying to cope with pain? Please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Your support is what keeps these true stories alive. Thank you for watching and for feeling this with me.